I know this. You've seen all the numbers in my Pikes Peak ascent times. Like it's just been my times have been dropping and dropping and drop. It's unbelievable. Okay, so long uphill efforts. Increasing our running endurance. All right, our stamina. Why do we want to work on our endurance as runners? All right, we're diving in today. The reason we're doing this is I got to remind myself as I'm coming back from a running injury, and let us know in the comments if you're on your way back right now, going back to the basics. That's what I'm doing in my training. As I'm doing the laps, if you've been following me on Strava, you see me doing the laps around the grass soccer fields. It's just a reminder, just building that base, all right? And that is point number one. Base building is your friend as a runner, okay? And I'm not talking about zone one, okay? Now, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the heart rate zones, and it's not how I train, but I know a lot of people do train, so I'm gonna translate what I share into these different zones. Zone one, for me, is easy recovery days. But the majority of my training, I'm gonna say 60%, is not in zone one, okay? I love that zone two, zone three, borderline, right on that borderline of zone 2, zone 3, what I like to call my steady runs. You know, sometimes if I'm feeling a little tired, in that steezy range, okay? So base building is your friend. I'm gonna say especially for all the new runners out there, those first 8 weeks of a training block. Now, this is all gonna be as you're discerning and figuring out in your mind, what am I training for? What are my goals in racing? And again, we'll probably talk about niche and niche here in a minute. How long is your training block? What distance are you training for? Are you training for a mile? You're training for 100 miles, okay? So base training is your friend, all right? Long runs at steady pace and even a little faster later in a training block. Now, Cologne University in Germany, all right? The big study, the 2-hour plus runs. That's the most popular vlog on this YouTube channel, and where the study discovered that they did a study, I think it was in like the late 70s, early 80s, where as soon as you're breaking through that 2-hour barrier in your training, that's when you really start to develop a lot of different things, but especially capillary beds, all right? Capillary beds help transport oxygen and deliver that oxygen, as you're breathing it into your lungs, into your blood, and then delivering it out throughout your body, eventually to your muscles. Those capillary beds, developing them, and even recruiting new capillary beds. There's 10 billion capillary beds roughly in our bodies. So pushing through those 2-hour runs is just so key. And I like to do it in that zone 2/3, but then eventually those 20, when you see me on Strava hitting those 20 milers on that zone 3 into even a borderline zone 4 for all the heart rate runners out there. All right, tempo efforts at 60 to 75 minutes. All right, this is usually around like week 7, week 8 in a training block. So after that base is built, for increasing my endurance, increasing my stamina, I like to incorporate these tempo runs so that for me up here at altitude, really at the bottom of that zone 4 range, so 60 to 75 minutes. Sometimes if I'm getting ready for a marathon, that 90-minute range for a tempo run. All right, so again, we're not talking about track work yet. We're just talking about tempo runs, but longer tempo runs, okay? So not shorter ones, all right? Long uphill efforts. I'm sorry, if you're in Florida, if you're in, I don't even know, maybe the panhandle of Texas, are there hills there? I'm not exactly sure. I'm sorry, not everybody has access to long uphill runs, but if you do, or maybe you're an hour away, and maybe once or twice a month you can drive to these hills, to these mountains. And I'm not talking about hill repeats. I get that question a lot. Seth, should I be doing hill repeats? They're fine. I'm not against hill repeats, but I have found my aerobic capacity probably more than is more than 2-hour runs? I don't know. But I'm telling you, if you can find a hill that has at least a 30-minute sustained uphill effort, preferably 45 minutes to an hour, where you're literally running uphill the entire time, no downhill, not just aerobic capacity, also leg strength. Tremendous. It's unbelievable. It's been amazing these last 5 years how I have improved my aerobic capacity. I know this. You've seen all the numbers in my my Pikes Peak ascent times, like it's just been my times have been dropping and dropping and dropping. It's unbelievable, okay? So long uphill efforts. If you can go for 30 minutes, but ideally 45 minutes and even an hour, you'll be shocked. And again, I realize not everybody lives around a big hill or a big mountain, but it has helped me tremendously. Consistency is king. It goes without saying in long distance running. We got to be consistent. Right here, avoiding injury, all right? And so I'm a big fan of taking time off after a peak race, but if you can avoid long breaks, it's so important. I know life gets busy, stress happens, things happen, you go back to school, but if you can be consistent, even like I'm telling you, 20 to 30 minute jogs, 5 days a week, that'll help you so much in the long run for increasing your aerobic capacity, aka endurance and stamina. And just a quick little evidence for this is I went from 40 miles a week in high school to 75 to 80 miles a week in college, and I went from 16:27 5K in high school to 14:46. Boom, like literally within 18 months. And listen, you got to be very careful. You got to listen to your body. Obviously, if you have a coach, listen to your coach, but it's a pretty incredible what more running can do, more miles, and not at crazy paces. Again, that zone 2, zone 3 for me is how I like to train it, but it's your aerobic capacity and your endurance. It's the science. There's just no other way to get around it. It's the science for running faster, all right? Now, just to recap, all right, what are we doing when we are working on our aerobic endurance, our aerobic capacity, okay? We're preparing our aerobic system for oxygen debt training, aka anaerobic training, going to the track and ripping the intervals. But if we don't have that base, if we don't have that foundation, it's just not going to be possible to go faster around the track. But in order to go faster around the track and have that aerobic capacity, what happens when you go into oxygen debt and you're not trained for going into oxygen debt, you're going to plunge the pH levels in your blood too far, okay? And into that like 6.8 to 7.0 range where your blood becomes and that's that lactic acid buildup that you feel in your legs, which is good to go there. But again, without that baseline endurance and not improving it over time, your speed work on the track later in the training block, it's just not going to be as beneficial to you. And it's just not going to be as beneficial, and therefore it's not going to translate as well to race day. So that's why I put so much emphasis here on the channel and into my training for that aerobic capacity base building, okay? And that's where, and again, back to the long runs, the 2-hour long runs, the long uphill running, the longer tempo runs, and then not being afraid early in the training block for that big base building, that foundation building, okay? Long term, it's worked out for me in my racing, and I look forward to reading your success stories down below in the comments as to how you have built, remember the question of the day, how you have built your aerobic capacity, your endurance, your stamina. Did I ask the question of the day? Hopefully I did. If not, here it is again. How have you built up your aerobic endurance, especially early on as a runner? Let's help each other out down in the comments. In case this is a little foreign to you, if you're just stumbling upon this video, welcome to the channel. But it's a process. It's a process, and again, consistency is your best friend for building and improving your aerobic endurance. Sarah, you get the comment of the day from the 2-hour plus vlog from, 3, maybe 4 years ago. I think it's the most popular video on the channel, all right? So how to improve your aerobic capacity, do those 2-hour runs. Sarah said, 1 year ago, I started a couch to 5K program and the thought of running for 2 minutes straight seemed impossible. A year later, I can run for an hour straight. Remember what I said? It might take you 6 months, it might take you a year to get up to that 2-hour window, and Sarah has proven this out right here. Massive improvement, but that 2-hour goal is not too far away. Thanks for the content. You're very welcome, Sarah. Thank you for tuning in. And there you have it, everybody. I hope that helps, and it's just like a little gentle nudge and reminder for me to not forget the basics of my training as I start to come back from this sacrum stress fracture. Onward we go. Of course, we'll toss it to the 2-hour plus run vlog right here, right here, right here. 2-hour plus run vlog right here, right here, right here. All right, seek beauty, work hard, and love each other. See you tomorrow.